Hello, everybody. I'm here with Eyal Yakoby, who had by himself brought down UPenn, right?
Basically.
So I
It was a
think,
united effort.
yeah, so I think maybe if you could tell us like a little bit of a background of who you are, what did you do, what made you speak up, and then we're gonna jump into more advanced questions. But
For sure. So my name is Eyal Yakoby. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. I'm a current political commentator. I talk mostly about foreign policy and domestic politics in the United States of America, and I'm an incoming student at MIT.
all right, and what happened?
At UPenn, leading up to October 7th and post October 7th, there was an overwhelming amount of anti-Semitism, anti-Americanism, anti-Zionism on campus. I had the opportunity to testify twice before Congress, before the House Education Workforce Committee, another time before the House Judiciary Committee, testifying about my experience and the experience of other students at universities across the United States.
Okay, so actually, what brought you? How was is it? How was it? Like, how did you start? Like, what was the goal when you started speaking up, and when did you start speaking up?
I started speaking up before October 7th on campus. The 2 weeks prior to October 7th, there was a swastika found on campus. Jews or Nazis was written adjacent to Penn's Jewish fraternity house. The Hillel was broken into by someone flipping furniture, yelling, "Fuck the Jews." And while this was happening, UPenn had a conference with a menu of anti Semitic speakers, ranging from Roger Waters to Rafat Alarir to Nora Erekat. And so there was a big swell in anti-Semitism even before the 7th of October.
All right, so you were on it before October 7th. How hard was it
Yes.
to get people to pay attention to those things that were just describing?
I think it was one incident you can write off as one bad or maligned actor, but when you have three incidents and at the same time an entire conference of anti-Semitism happening, then you can see that it's more of a systemic problem. And the university was refusing to address it in a systemic way. And so therefore there needed to be outside and internal pressure applied to the university to actually take action to solve the crisis brewing on their hands.
And let me just say 1 second. People are saying there is a bit of a technical issue, so let me check. Okay. All right, so I hope the sound is fine, so let me know the sound is fine, and I hope it will get better soon. Okay, so okay, you are describing anti-Semitism that was already on campus before October 7th, right?
Yes, this
But
is yeah.
but who knew about it?
I mean, all the incidents were reported, however, they were all written off as isolated events. There was nothing really done about them to prevent the next event from happening. And so it was less about the incidents that occurred and more about the response or lack thereof from the university.
Did you try talking to the media?
I spoke to the media. I had countless conversations with administrators on all different levels of the university, and everyone said that they were addressing it, that there would be, action taken. But then the next incident would come, and it would be the same story, just a different script. And so it clearly wasn't a forceful response from the university. It was trying to slide stuff under the carpet, expecting it not to creep its head up again.
How many Jewish students do you have in UPenn?
It's unclear. Of the 10,000 undergraduate students, there's anywhere from 9 to 12% of the student body is Jewish.
How many spoke up?
I can't put a number on that.
You don't know.
I would rather not answer. It
You'd
is
rather
not
not
enough.
answer. And
Not enough is the
how many
answer.
speak now?
More than before.
Percentage wise, like increase twice as much, three times as much, 1% more. Nothing.
It's
Confidential.
you can't calculate the number because someone speaking, everyone speaking up is different. Someone might be speaking up to their friends or their peers, and that's, the most that they can do. That's the most that they feel comfortable with, whereas someone else might be going to Congress and speaking, and so it's an impossible calculation to make.
And did you talk about that with your parents as well?
About what was happening on campus.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And what was their reaction?
The reaction was shock. I think most people who saw the incidents that were happening on campus that have no opinion or no bias one way or the other would find it shocking to say the least and disgusting to say the most.
Did they take any action?
Yeah, they made calls, wrote emails, just like I would expect most Jewish parents would, and parents who simply don't like swastikas to be drawn on campus.
All right, so that is before October 7th.
Yes, this is all before October 7th.
Do you feel like then what you're describing is absolute like Jew hate?
I would definitely say a swastika drawn on campus is Jew hate.
So when was the narrative hijacked and turned into anti-Israel?
I think it's all the same. I think you have this incident with this kid Mohammed Khan from Temple University at the Barstool Bar who wrote a sign saying "fuck the Jews" and his excuse for why there should be no outrage is because of what's happening in Gaza. And I mean, the two are just completely irrelevant, obviously, and it's just a complete obfuscation of the fact that he didn't write "fuck the Zionists" or "fuck the Israelis," he wrote "fuck the Jews." And so I think it's constantly two narratives being played at once, where you have neo-Nazis and Islamists coming together to blur the lines when I think we've crossed the line and then some.
And by the way, uh, I have a lot of Hindu viewers that would prefer if you call it Haken Cruz and not a
If
swastika.
I called it what?
The swastika, a Haken Cruz, the way the Germans called it, like the tilted one,
Okay.
because it's their religious symbol, which was,
The Nazi swastika.
I mean, they tilted it, but when it's
Yes, yes,
straight.
yes.
So it's
Yeah, yeah,
swastika is
it's a
the,
Hindu symbol.
yeah. Just for to say in the beginning when I was asked that, I was like, why does it matter? But the more I thought about it, I realized it does matter. This is like cultural appropriation that is absolutely not fair because I feel like we're experiencing the same thing right now. People are saying, okay, Magen David is the new swastika, right? And it's like another religion symbol, like they took a religious symbol and twisted it. And then now they're taking our religious symbol and twisting it as well. So I understand where it comes from. Just saying that.
No, I agree.
So, right. So, okay, beside the hate that was like vandalism and things like that, what kind of courses did you take? Like, what
I
was,
was a political science and Middle East studies major, so mostly courses on foreign affairs.
all right. So, how much of that was like worrying or concerning?
Yeah, I mean, all the classes in those courses were vehemently anti-Israel, which is expected, and they were also extremely anti-American, blaming America and the West, Europe, for all of the problems of the Middle East. There's no internal bad actors in the Middle East. There's only malign actors coming from outside, and shaping the Middle East for the worst.
All right. And did you have any course that was not anti-American or anti-Israel?
If it existed, I didn't take it,
Wait, so
or
what?
or or have heard about it.
All right. So how did this kind of material, how does it benefit you? Like, what did you learn?
I mean, for me personally, I was definitely challenged in these courses to think more broadly and foment my opinions more because you're constantly being attacked ideologically from an anti-Western perspective. But in terms of your average student who doesn't have such convictions, let's call them, then it's definitely corrupting the minds of America's youth for sure.
All right, okay, fine. But like technically, like what did you learn? Like what skills did you get from it?
I don't understand the question, sorry.
Right, like if you go to school and the materials are like biased. So what did you learn? And a technical writing? Like what did you learn? Like honestly speaking.
I mean, you learn history, you learn writing, you learn hard work, meeting deadlines.
How can you trust the history you are being taught then?
You can't. That's part of the problem of what's happening to higher education in the United States of America, that there's a very warped, one-sided view that does not reflect the values of America or the West.
All right, so what happens when you bring about a different perspective to class?
You're either, shut down. It could affect you in terms of your grades. It could affect you in terms of what other courses you can get into. It can affect your reputation. It can affect your job prospects. If professor writes to your future employer or doesn't recommend you for something, it has serious consequences.
Was there any professor, any course that you're taking that the professor was like, I accept or like appreciated the pushback?
Yeah, there were definitely courses that the professor appreciated some sort of debate or nuance, but that didn't affect the actual course material whatsoever. It was just, I appreciate you raising your concern.
That's it? Like I appreciate, but no, was there a debate?
I can't really remember any actual debates that would happen. You also have to remember that, you're students, you're taking these classes to actually learn the information. You don't have as
Mm,
much data or knowledge as a professor who's been teaching this course or subject for decades. So it's also coming from a different pedestal of understanding and facts in a course or on a certain subject.
that's your perspective then. That's what the mindset that you go to school with.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's why people go to universities to
It
learn
it's
material.
right, but like just so you know, what you're saying now is not to be taken for granted. It's not like that here. My sister studies law. She debates her professors. She brings up opinions that are different than there, and they appreciate it. She even has like a work that she did in law, and she's like undergraduate as well. And like the professor like writes question and debates her and like gets very excited about somebody who pushes back against them. And I saw that, right? Like they have a completely different opinion, but like there is a complete like the she writes a paperwork and like the professor asks question and gets excited and like thank you for pushing back, I love it. And like same thing in class. So yeah, I'm sorry, but like the professor saying thank you for raising your concerns, you know who answers like that?
I would say law is definitely a different subject matter where your intention is to debate the law and understand the law, and that's the purpose. Same thing in the US, where you want lively debates about the law because the law is ever changing. The whole point of law is that you interpret it and then you apply it based off prior cases. But in something of, let's say, discussing the Oslo Accords, there's certain facts that you need to adhere to in order to understand what led up to the Oslo Accords, what happened during them, how they broke apart, what was happening during the Intifada at the time. There's much more room for difference of knowledge and understanding than there is for someone discussing a case, for instance.
All right, so you're saying in law there is debate in university.
I haven't taken a law course, but from my understanding, yes, that
Okay, so
is the
this
whole
is what
point of.
people that you talk to, that's the feedback you've gotten.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so it's specifically history that there is no debate.
I don't know if there's no debate at all. I'm just saying from my experience that there's definitely very little debate that occurs. And I also don't think history is a subject matter where there typically is lively debate, especially at an undergraduate level, because the whole point of taking a history course is to actually learn the history itself
And how do you learn history?
by reading and listening to a lecture on from a professor on history.
Is that how you do history?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Is that like I literally am asking because I want to understand like how deteriorated the education system is.
I would definitely I would say that that is how most I don't know. I'm not a professor. I'm not an academic, so I can't tell you exactly how to teach or learn history. But from my understanding, at least, you learn history by reading the text, primary, secondary, tertiary
All
sources,
right.
and
Okay. Yeah.
also listening to people who have studied it.
Right. Okay. And then aren't there like when you read them, aren't there different people who bring different perspectives and how they understand those sources?
Yeah, I would. Yes, yes. Different people have different understandings of history and interpret the facts differently.
All right. So I wanna see what Shauna wrote here. One second. Um, I'm curious about it because it's like so here's my big question, okay? Like what are the corrective mechanisms? Every system, right, as far as I'm concerned, like the jury, the government, the executive branch, everybody has, especially in the United States, some sort of a corrective mechanism, right? Something that would make sure everything stays in check, that it doesn't go too hard on one direction or another one. Are there like any corrective mechanisms that are in place in the education system?
I mean, there's very few. You have donors and alumni who dictate the money flow to a university, but that's being circumvented by the fact that sovereign wealth funds, such as the Qatar Foundation, can balance out or replace donors that come from the United States.
All right.
And you also have the federal government. You see the federal government in the United States right now withholding federal money to universities that don't uphold, don't uphold federal law. But there's no, uh, there's no law that says the university cannot just teach a one-sided view or history of certain subjects. So right now you have universities violating Title VI, which is the Civil Rights Act, where Jewish student civil rights are being violated, and you can use that to then restrict funding to change the university's policies or how they address certain incidents on campus. But let's say there was no anti-Semitism whatsoever happening on campus, then there really isn't a mechanism from the federal government itself to force universities into taking a more balanced approach to subjects. And so the only last measure is the invisible hand of the market, that if students feel as though that universities aren't properly providing them an education, then they will no longer apply or go, and then university has an issue with their enrollment and their status and their prestige, to which they might reverse course in order to restore their prestige.
All right. Do you think this is a corrective mechanism that could be applied now? That people would say, okay, we're not gonna enroll into those universities. That's one. And the other one, clearly, the corrective mechanism was the donations, right? Like the alumni were supposed to be the corrective mechanism, but that didn't work because the funding came from different sources, and they did not had like they didn't rely on the alumni for that universities.
Yeah, I would say that it's a very difficult thing to convince people that a school like Harvard University, the Ivy League at large, is no longer prestigious or no longer worth your time to apply to. I mean, that's a generational idea that has been ingrained in students since, they're born, of watching movies of the Ivy League, of looking at the founders of the Fortune 500 and seeing that they all went to Ivy Leagues. The majority went to Ivy Leagues. And so it's definitely a big change that needs to happen ideologically in the United States, that's not going to happen within 18 months of universities being exposed.
All right, so what do you remember any of your courses in particular? Like, just give us a feel of what you were learning.
On a course about the Arab-Israeli conflict, for an entire course, the map disappearing Palestine, which is obviously a completely fake propaganda map, was projected onto the screen showing that in
Mm.
1939 it was all Palestine, and then in 1944 there was the partition plan as though it was accepted by the Palestinians, which it of course wasn't. Then in 1945, 70 whatever 2% of the land is controlled by Israel, and then by 67 it's all controlled by Israel. But it makes no sense because between 48 and 67, of course, Jordan occupied the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria, and Egypt occupied Gaza. So between those years, just objectively speaking, it wasn't ruled by Palestinians. And obviously prior to 44, it was ruled by the British, not Palestine once again. So that's just pure propaganda that's being projected.
I
Another
don't.
course, we were
Yeah.
told that the US played a major role in 9/11 in terms of radicalizing Osama bin Laden, as though Osama bin Laden would have been an angelic figure had it not been for US foreign policy leading up to 9/11.
All right, and that is supposed to be something you cannot argue with?
I mean, you can argue with it, sure.
And how did you argue with it?
I'm saying you can definitely argue with those certain things, but the average student in class, number one, doesn't know that because they're taking the class in order to gain the knowledge and information on the specific subject areas. And you also have, as I mentioned before, the voice in the back of your head telling you that if you do speak up, it could adversely affect your next test, your next paper, your job prospects, or your final grade in the course. And so there's two competing issues with the idea of just freely speaking up and debating because one, the average student doesn't know that that map of disappearing Palestine is BS because of the fact that they're actually taking the course to learn about it, and they don't want to affect their grades in the course itself.
No, it's just like, honestly speaking, it's beyond that. It's just the assumption that Palestine did not mean Jewish to begin with. Like, the disappearing as Palestine, when Palestine was the referred to Jews prior to 64. It's like, all right, fine. So basically, complete idiocracy. Oh my God, this is like, all right. So what now? What do you do?
Right now, I mostly talk about foreign policy and domestic politics in the United States, and discuss major world events that are occurring right now.
All right. So here, Shauna had given. It's the entire American education system since Bush. We were taught to pass tests, so unless you get critical thinking at home, you just don't learn it. So that's her commentary. Thank you, Shauna. Do you agree with that? What's your take?
I don't have enough knowledge of Bush's policies on education to make an actual judgment call on what the core issue is of universities right now.
All right, I'm gonna ask you something a bit hard. How is your critical thinking?
I don't know how to answer that.
No. Like, I don't know, it's interesting to me. Like, do you feel like, is it something that you'd struggle with? Let's say, like, now that you have experience, you sit together with someone else. Let's say you think they have critical skills, thinking skills, right? Do you feel overwhelmed? Did it ever happen to you?
Have I ever felt overwhelmed?
Yeah, sitting next to someone who does have those skills, for example, trying to figure something out.
I don't know. I think I can critically think. I don't know how to measure that or
No, no, I'm just asking. Like you didn't like. I'm just asking. Like, like you can also say, yes, I've been with somebody like that, and I could keep up, and I did like, I had no issues with critical thinking. And then I would ask, like, then how did you learn to think critically?
what do you mean by like critically thinking and like sitting next to someone who is
Um,
critically thinking?
all right, so because I have some experience in my own life, right? So I've learned all my life how to recognize Soviet propaganda and how they distort information and what kind of information is presented versus what kind of information is not presented, and how do they generate like a certain feel, and how do they take your guard down. And I can tell that like looking at every video pretty quickly. And the reason is that I've been doing that all of my life, but this is like a very specific thing that I learned also because my family, my mom's family, were anti-Soviet activists, right? So she started learning that they had like forbidden books at home, and then when they came to Israel, the interesting thing is that they had recognized that the same tactics for manipulating people that they thought only the Soviet Union uses are still being used here. So ever since I've been little, I'd be like, okay, so this is how you manipulate this and that, like how you create that. So I've been learning it, right? So I had the opposite experience of sitting next to someone, understanding they've never been taught that, and then I explained that to them, like, how do you see what is the actual goal behind a certain video, a certain information, a certain piece of information, right?
Yeah, I think I'm good at picking up
No, no, no,
on
just like
nuances.
honestly, yeah. So how did you learn that then?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't think everyone has the same experience with learning Soviet propaganda. So I don't know if I have something as clear cut to point to.
So, but all right, but can you tell like when did you start noticing that something is wrong?
I mean, I think I noticed it, as I mentioned at the start, that it was not just one or two isolated incidents. It was multiple incidents that occurred in the span of 2 weeks with no trigger.
Explain what are incidents.
As I mentioned, the Nazi swastika that was drawn on campus, the Hillel being broken into, the speakers that came to campus, the Jews are Nazis being written on the Jewish fraternity house. Those are what I mean when I say incidents.
Okay, but those incidents what triggered you to re-examine like the education material that you've been presented with?
No, I've always known that there's severe bias in the material.
Right. How?
Will be I like I mentioned the disappearing Palestine map, for instance. That's something that I knew was false.
How did you know it's false?
I don't know. I just know I know it's because I knew the history before. I'm not sure.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm very sorry to startle you like that, but this is the kind of challenge we are facing right now worldwide. Okay, we have a generation that is struggling with that. So because like you have everything that you have described is taking away someone's ability to analyze data, raise flags. So it just, just like that, those are my thoughts, basically. Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think people definitely need to know the facts, and understand what's happening.
So do you think it's a lack of accessible data? Would you describe that as a problem?
It would depend on what we're specifically referencing. Like something like the disappearing Palestine map is obvious to anyone. Like that's not a data problem. Um,
So where is the
I
problem?
think
So if it's not a data problem, why didn't the whole class shout, "This is bullshit"?
well, because most people don't study the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or read books about it before going into college. It's just like me taking a class on Indo-Pacific trade relations. I have no prior knowledge of Indo-Pacific trade relations. Why would I be expected to know something?
So it is a data problem.
Well, I don't think it's a data problem because you can get the data. You said accessibility to data. The data is there, but people can't be experts or have knowledge about every different subject.
Well, this is where critical thinking comes into action. This is where you're supposed to be double checking whatever you're learning.
Well, I think people go to school in order to learn. I don't think they're going to school to then double learn everything on the side. The whole point of going to university is to learn the facts, is to learn the data, not to come in with prior data or spend time outside of class relearning what you learned in class.
This is the cutest thing I've ever heard, but I don't want to be mean. Ah, okay. So it is a shock to the system, I'm guessing, realizing that there is indoctrination instead of education in your schools. All right, Shauna, thank you for your support again. A problem is that a lot of students today assume their teachers know what they're doing. I was taught to think public educators were too stupid to do anything else and couldn't be trusted. Yeah. What do you think about that comment?
Um, I don't know. There's a lot of public educators. I can't make a judgment call on all of them based off of
But it's
maybe
enough
one or
to have
two or
one stupid one, right? It's okay. Like if you take one course on a subject and that educator happens to be an idiot, then you have been indoctrinated on one subject.
um sure, but it's not about the educator. I feel like we're jumping around on topics based on indoctrination, stupidity, like how a teacher teaches the course. Like there's different elements at play that are all much different than each other.
All right. Let's say everybody gets educated about Israel being a great country and everything understands that America is amazing. How long do you think would it take for another system to be set up in place to indoctrinate another generation? And by the way,
I mean,
somebody asked if you play team sports.
that's an impossible question to answer. There's how many resources can you devote? How big is the population? How many generations do I have to make change? I that's an impossible question.
All right, how long would it take to indoctrinate a generation about the conflict in Sudan? Thank you,
It would,
Brenda.
are you refer in the United States, I would say it would take one generation because it's a subject that people are very unfamiliar about. So it's very easy to just make them believe one thing because you can anchor them psychologically to one side of the conflict.
So, in one generation, you can have the same phenomena again in the streets, just around Sudan this time.
I mean, I don't understand the premise of the question, if I'm being honest.
I'm curious what you're thinking.
I don't know the premise of the question. I don't know what I'm thinking about right now. Like, can I convince 300 people to go into the street and march for Sudan in one generation? Probably. If that's the question, then yes,
Yeah,
probably.
okay. Yeah,
Depends how
that's the
much money I
question.
have.
Perfect. Depends
But
how
that's
much money you have.
that's not an apples to apples question with the Palestinian conflict because the U.S. is funding Israel and there's much more propaganda that's being poured in to the U like there's so many different factors at play than just can 300 people go to the street to protest in support of Sudan?
Why? Why is it different?
Why is protesting for Sudan different
No, why
than
is
for
it like
Gaza?
conceptually different?
Because the U.S. has much more interest in Israel than it does Sudan.
Well, it would only take one professor who knows Sudan really well to convince you otherwise.
Yeah, sure. If I take his class and he can be replicated across universities
All right.
simultaneously.
Okay. So it's funny. No, okay, fine. Now, okay, how can we help you with your fight against the whatever is going on campuses?
I think Israel can help by number one being unified and enough of the divisive rhetoric that's happening within the country that's only splitting the Jewish people more, I think is the biggest thing.
Do you think we
I
should not
think
have the argumentation inside the country?
no, that's not what I said. I said the hyper divisive current nature of the Israeli legislator.
What makes you think it's hyper divisive?
Well, there's been 6 elections in 3 years or
Right,
4 years.
but that doesn't just
That's
but
unprecedented.
yeah, but it's what well, that's because like nuances, but that doesn't mean it's hyper divisive.
I think by all metrics, the current Israeli political system is a hyper divisive political system right
And
now.
why do you think that?
I mean, this is a way longer conversation than we have, but objectively speaking, by all metrics,
Right.
and I think Israeli politicians would agree that the current state of Israel is very divided. There's never been hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets. There's never been so many refuseniks to go to the military. I mean, there's definitely an issue right now in Israel in terms of divisiveness.
You don't know Israeli history, I'm sorry. That would be not true at all. I can prove it to you easily because I know the history, okay? It might actually be the least divisive it ever had been, surprisingly enough. If you know how it was during the Mapach of Begin, if you know the story of Altalena, if you know the story of 48, if you know the story of after a Six-Day War, if you know the story of Oslo, if you know, like you might learn that it actually might be the least divisive it had ever been. But
In all
yet,
those different situations, it was way different than it is now, where now it's internal politics at play, not external politics. The issue in
oh,
Begin with Oslo was because of a foreign policy decision being made. These are all internal conflicts that are issues right now, whether it comes to Orthodox Jews drafting to the military, whether it has to do with the Supreme Court, the judicial overhaul that's happening right now. And I'm not saying what side I stand on each of those issues. I'm merely saying that these are internal issues that are hyper divisive that are happening right now. You can say Gush Katif was very divisive as well. Again, foreign
then
policy
that was
decision.
20 years ago.
Yeah, and there was not 150,000 people taking to the streets every single Saturday demanding that the prime minister of the country step down. I'm sorry, there just wasn't.
Oh, there were a lot of protests and it was super divisive. And by the way, Oslo had a lot of
There were, I
protests.
never said there were, I never said it wasn't divisive or there weren't a lot of protests, but it was not like it is now,
Well, it was
during
funded
that,
now.
there were not thousands of reserve soldiers that were refusing to join the military or thousands of people that are 18 that are refusing to join the military. That's not
There
based in
were,
reality
Eyal,
or
there
data.
were. You just
There
don't know
wasn't the
about
same
it.
level. Respectfully, there just was not the same level of divisiveness during Gush
Let,
Katif. It just
let's,
didn't exist.
all right, let's set it aside, okay? I just want to read the comment here and thank you. Arabic or zero, I don't know how to read it. Does there seem to be an anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli rhetoric built into courses generally? I've noticed a very palpable anti-white male sentiment baked into course I've taken only a couple of years ago.
I would definitely say there's also this is needs to be the last question just because I have to
Yeah,
run,
yeah, yeah.
but
Go ahead.
I would definitely say, as I
Run.
mentioned, that there's a significant bias that is incorporated. I also think DEI, maybe that's where the anti-white male sentiment is the reference of. I definitely think DEI is a big problem on campuses, and I'm happy that President Trump is signing executive orders to eliminate DEI as much as possible.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. And I think you can just go ahead. I think I'll just move on to being just me and everyone else together. Thank you for being here. I mean, they don't hear you anymore, but yeah. All right. Okay. What are your thoughts, everybody? I'm curious to hear you out. Let me see. Here, let me go through a little bit of your comments because I'm curious. Why is there streaming? All right. So, real history can be unpleasant. Okay, guys, okay, I want to hear your thoughts. I really do. The conversation got spicy at the end. I think so too. Okay, Shona is pointing out the important things. He has a very nice jawline. He should know that. You give people a grilling. To be honest, I told him. I tell everybody ahead of time. Be prepared. I'm gonna challenge you. Okay? And I was like, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Can you debate? Can you be challenged?" My man got brainwashed and he doesn't even know it. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. I know. What do we do? Like, what do we do? He's a guy so cute. But what do we do? Well, okay, I'll be honest, okay? Sometimes I talk to people and I experiment. I want to see where they're at. Where are we at? Where's the issue at, all right? And here's the thing, right? Like, it's nice to talk about anti-Semitism and the topics that he talks about, and he knows that it's bad because it's his own experience, right? He knows it's bad. He knows it's wrong. He knows that the map was wrong because he probably saw it before. But in this channel, you and I together, we're looking for something bigger than that. I apologize. Like, this is what I tell people that come here. This is why I tell them, be prepared to be challenged. Be prepared that there might be some sort of a debate that you would have to handle. I even, Like, it's like I say it in advance because here in this channel, all right, we are trying to do something bigger than spreading information that would be lost in a generation. So, yeah. And it's not about that, it's just I don't always know I cannot always tell how people would react or how people, like, what level would they be able to handle. So, and I think I know it was a little bit like he's a great guy, smart guy, right? Went to UPenn, now he goes to MIT from what I've seen. That is a smart person that knows morality, understands moral principles, fights for, like, he saw something that's wrong and he fought against it. This is great, right? But yeah, going to college in America is like huffing a very expensive paper. So this is where we're at, okay, you guys? Like, I think it's important to show things as they are. Yeah. And I don't know about you. Do you guys think you get older and you learn critical thinking? Like it's something that would happen when you're older? Like, what do you think? What do you guys think? Yeah, he went to UPenn. Yes, Jay. Like, I'm kind of, yeah, UPenn, and he testified in front of the Congress, right? Those very famous, Alice Stefanik asking, you don't think like a call for genocide? Whatever, like, are you waiting for a genocide to happen? Like, what's the deal? Like, he was there. Going to college in America was awesome in my experience. It sounds like a fun thing to do. You guys are Gigi, Rebecca intimidates people. Mariana, thank you. Yes, I do. Were my questions that intimidating though? Like, honestly speaking, like, saying nobody isn't used to Israeli women. They are saying we just bombed Islamabad and Lahore. Oh, good for you then. Let's check. Did you? It's possible as you get older, people develop it. Could be. It could be. And Shana is saying, one sec. No, I think it's either inborn or trained young. Sometimes something big can wake you up, but not often. It's a. You guys, why are you all saying I'm intimidating? Come on, I should have worn like my sloppy outfit. That way I would have said the same thing and looked less intimidating. I think wearing a suit is like a jacket is maybe more intimidating than it should. Thank you, Holster. Thank no Rivka. Those they were normal questions. He was very obviously shocked by them for some other reason. I think there is a generational gap. I've seen it when I don't know if you guys watched the video I've made about AP and David Wood that when they were visiting, right? And we went to the how's it called? The hostage square. So we went to the hostage people, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot how it's called in English. So where they fight, right, where they have everything, and we interviewed people, and I asked, you know, a 20-year-old how her friends that were abroad reacted to what's happening, and then I asked a 40-year-old how his friends reacted, and you see this unbridgeable gap almost between the generations. Like something went fundamentally, like at its core, right? The younger generation did not understand that it needs to show empathy, first of all, for example. Like there was nothing like that. And I think it's, so he's young, he's 23. He's very young. Shana, thank you. It's my intelligence that is intimidating, not my looks. So, Holster, how old are you then? He was even younger than you. I don't know. I don't know what to think, actually, to be honest. Like, I don't know. And I think he didn't have the background to understand, but he was trying to say that he needs the Israelis to be easier to defend. Yeah. That like, here's the thing. I don't think it's something that makes sense to ask, to be honest. And I heard it like it's something that I heard a lot. So I'm 30. Well, I'm Holster. Well, congrats. You're old. Of course, you're 23 is gonna be younger. Ah, well. That's my thoughts. There is a thinking. Israeli women are intellectually confrontational and aggressive. Love that quality. Seems to be cultural. Not always in a good sense, honestly. But thank you for your support. Raise your IQ levels before you enter this channel. Thank you for finding me warm and engaging. This is how you look guys should all look at me, okay? Not scary and intimidating. Okay. When I watched him on Ariel Weidman, he seemed a different personality. Maybe. Could be different. I should check that out. I didn't see him there. Oh, what did I? All right, now everybody's just sharing how old they are. The shoulder pads are intimidating. I think so too, right? It must be the shoulder pads. That's the only thing. Let me say something. Shana, you're so funny. I'll invite more people. Don't worry. I'll invite more people if they're not scared. Yeah, this is like Alcoholic Anonymous, so just with age. Well, I've become weak. I'm weak. So weak. All right. Does anyone here doesn't think like critical thinking it's a skill that you learn? Like, I feel like it's a skill like any other skills, right? Just somewhat technical even. Just notice what kind of information is presented. Ask this and that, like these kind of questions. At some point you learn how to do it. So that's why I feel like that's something that is learned. Your guys are mean. I didn't brutalize him, okay? Brandon, you should connect Atheist, Republican, Mansour. Like, you want to see them again. That's what you're saying. Because they were here, already have lives with them. Yeah. I think Mansour is a bit busy right now, but I'll talk to him, see what's happening. Like, I talk to him a lot, but I know everything that's happening has been a little bit busy. Right, it is a skill and it usually requires a structured format. This is why I asked, like, where did you, like, I don't know, you learn it, right? That's what I know. And yes, it is a skill. Exactly, it is a skill you can learn. You should learn. We are born with biologically installed biases. We must even be trained to do that. That is exactly that. Oh, Allah has spoken. Critical thinking is something that you learn by experiencing discussion of something you didn't want to deconstruct. That's the only way you become aware of your ego impulse to validate itself. Like I have no memories of that learning that skill being pleasant. Right? For the most part, what I remember is being somewhat unpleasant to learn it, honestly speaking. So I agree. There is like an ego there that you learn to deconstruct. But it's something that like I I can remember multiple cases of me like going through that experience. Even like I remember a few cases in particular. One was the day after tomorrow, right? When you have this catastrophic climate change apocalypse happening. And back then, people was like, yeah, this is something that could, like, I was a kid, right? I was little, like a child, and I went to watch it, and it really scared me because everybody said, like, that was the talk, like, yes, this could really happen and things like that. And like, that really scared me. And then my mom was like, that was bullshit. And I remember, and then I went back, I was like, oh, deconstructed it and realized it was bullshit, you know? It's not pleasant. That's how I felt. It was like everybody were like, yeah, we're like scared of like, you know, the destructive nature of climate change. And then I remember like watching this movie and everybody were like taking it as if it was documentary, just like the documentary, not documentary, the movie that was made in the UK now that is presented as a documentary, but in reality it's just complete fiction, right? The boy that went ahead and a little white boy that went and stabbed a girl, whatever that, adolescence, something like that. This, and they use it as if it's documentary, but it's actually fiction. So I remember like something similar with The Day After Tomorrow. They like talked about as if it was like predictive, scientific, whatever, but in reality it was bullshit. And then I remember I watched it as a little girl. I was scared. And then my mom was like, you know, it's bullshit. If my mom wasn't there to tell me it's bullshit, I might have not realized how to think. And then I have another one. Like I remember like we had discussions about how relationships need to look like when we were in high school, right? And my teacher had like different diagrams about what kind of relationship is healthy, right? And I remember that, like deconstructing those things as well, like as something that really affected my critical thinking. I even remember when I was younger, like I thought like growing up in a relatively, I don't know, conservative household that changed quickly, but you know, I had relatives that would expect like women to clean and blah 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 and cook and things like that. And I went to the neighbor's house and I saw the dad making dinner, and I was like, oh, I thought women were supposed to cook. And I was like 4 years old. And then you know what they said? They didn't judge me. They didn't. My neighbors, they didn't judge me. They said, is it true? Does your dad never cook? And then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, my dad cooks sometimes. And then he said, you see? And that's it. Like, that's it. That's critical thinking. And I was like 4 years old. And I remember all those cases because it was like, it is like something that shocks the system every time, no matter how, I don't know, ridiculous it looks like as an adult. So I honestly like, I honestly can remember like those cases, right? Like those cases that even strangers would show me how to think critically. The video is still lagging, or you think, guys, am I lagging because it says like the connection is supposed to be good? The YouTube says great connection. And you guys are saying that it's laggy. So I don't know, guys. Really, like seriously, like I feel it is a skill that you learn. And I feel like, And this is where I feel the education system had failed. And I don't know if you can learn it in your, like, you know. Allah has spoken again. Allah is very... Listen, Allah, why couldn't you be that smart when you talk to Muhammad? Because Allah in the Quran is like not as smart as you are. Something went completely wrong. You guys are saying I'm lagging. Weird. Let's see. Shouldn't be lagging though. Why? Why am I lagging? No. Anyway, Allah is saying that getting ego whipped is one of the most spiritual experiences there is. I agree with this, Allah. I agree with you. Everybody's saying lagging. All right, people saying it's okay now. Thank you. I actually didn't. When someone describes themselves as critical thinking, I immediately suspicious. It's hard. Like, I don't think I'm always like it's critical thinking. It does require work. It does, honestly speaking. Brandon Lefton, I blame brain rot, not only the education system. Well, what is brain rot if not rotten education system, Brandon? Please enlighten us. I think I don't see the logic all the way through here, but thank you. You're saying it's good, it's not good, again, not again. I don't feel like I do it often, that I stay and like try to like have a conversation with you guys to get like to see what you guys are thinking, as in looking for advice and looking for feedback and looking for to see what you're thinking, honestly speaking, because I feel like because I feel like the problem we're facing right now is deeper than data. That's what I'm thinking. So this is why I'm interested in hearing your feedback. But honestly speaking, like, if you get presented with data and you learn from it, this is also a way to learn to think critically, right? Because you have accepted something as true, and then when you learn that the professor was bullshitting you, then that is also something that hurts enough to learn to think more critically going forward. So that's another one. But all right, I don't know how to say it. So oh well. Like right now we saw, like, how do I say it? Like, now a lot of people know that the professors were bullshitting them, and yet Shauna's comment was perceived as something weird. So I feel like the wound was not deep enough. You know what I'm saying? Something is wrong there. Like, the wound, like, wasn't it painful enough? Right? Like, wasn't it painful enough? Right now, like, Shauna's comment was just on point, and there is like this experience already. We see that there is a betrayal by the teachers, and then Shauna's comment saying that when I grew up, we were taught that teachers are idiots. I actually think that is an incredible mechanism to teach self-reliance and to double check even authoritative sources, right? And there was already the experience of getting wounded and hurt by that. And yet, the Shauna's comment was not, didn't get the reaction I thought it would. All right, that's how I would say it. And I know most people would not have that discussion afterwards because it's sensitive. And it's unpleasant. And there's like, but I really need people to see reality. Like I need, this guy is the best of the best. So something there bothers me. And no, I think you guys need to understand that it's not him. It's not him. That's what I think. So maybe it's the youth, but this is the challenge that we're having right now, I think. Brandon left. Brain rot comes from spending too much time scrolling online entertainment as opposed to nourishing your brain. Maybe. Thank you, Brandon. I don't know. I think being 23, he still has a level of confidence and authority. But his professors failed him, and literally my thumbnail says that his own professor called for his death. Right? So, shouldn't it be more earth-shattering? Shouldn't this generation be more shaken? Or is the trauma, yeah, or maybe you're right, he's just, he had a lot of trauma. Maybe the trauma has actually the opposite effect, that you need to feel that heartbreak maybe in a safe environment for it to be productive, right? So my heartbreaks were not in a bad environment, right? When I learned that my lessons of critical thinking, right? It was ego shattering, but the environment was positive and supportive. So there was like ego breakage, but it was, I fell into cotton, a cloud of cotton. So maybe that's why. So maybe it's the thing that yeah, that's the thing. Like there is something deeper generationally. Consuming too much when a closer explanation might be a bad communication strategy. Could be 100% that. Could be. It could be the way I structured the questions, but that was not very clear. Brandon, thank you for support. Designate my super chat to your new computer fund. Thank you. All right, so Shad is saying, I think the chat is making excuses for a pure communication on your part. Could be 100%. So this is part of why I stopped and took time to do this conversation with you guys, because I'm here to communicate and because I'm here to be a communicator, right? And clearly I felt like I didn't do a good enough job with that. I've decided to stay here and ask for your opinion, like how I could have done it better, because I feel like this is the challenge of our times. I feel like this is the challenge of our time. And that's the to me, sounds like a bunch of excuse to make. What is an excuse? Do I have a plan to develop alternative communication techniques? Well, I am asking for your advice in that matter. I'll think about it, I'll think about it. Obviously, the communication needs to be a bit better, because it is a challenging kind of direction to go to. For me as well, right? You've seen, I don't usually, I think it was my first interview with someone that was university aged, okay? Or wasn't, I don't know. A little bit off topic, but right now India is cooking Pakistan. That is amazing. Thank you for being the bearer of good news. Quality dose of positivity. Your name fits perfectly to what you just did. Thank you so much. I'm actually sharing that with you because maybe ask more position clarifying questions. Maybe. I am honestly confused. I am not that much older than him. It's hard to say if it's just our generation. Hey, Mariana. Okay, so share your thoughts. Like, what are you confused about then? Rebecca, what is the main vision you were trying to impart to him? I wasn't trying to impart a vision on him, honestly speaking. I was just trying to understand, right? What are the mechanisms that, like, how did it get to the point where university, that is an Ivy League university, teaches false, like, information that, like, things that are completely false? Like, how did it get to this point? So my question, try to understand that how can it be that you are being presented with false data, fake map created by internet people, as if that is some sort of historical documentation. How do you even get to that point? Like, how do you get to this point? Like, there is so much wrong with it. First of all, what does it mean to own land? What does it mean that Palestine, if it was not an independent in any way, shape, or form? How can you take chunks out of something that didn't have self-governance? Like, how can something like that be presented in university? How? This is just bullshit people send on the internet. How can it be presented in a course in Ivy League? How? How do you get to that? I think would he know the answer to that question? Yes, I think he had demonstrated perfectly the answer to the question. There is no debate. Whenever he had raised concerns, the answer he got from the professor was, I hear your concern, and it did not evolve into a debate. You know who answers like that? Narcissists. Okay, if somebody it's the same kind of mindset as somebody when you say I got hurt and somebody answers I'm sorry, you feel like you feel hurt, right? They're not sorry that they hurt you. They are sorry that you have feelings. That's what they're sorry about. And it's the same kind of reply from a professor. So yes, so that was there, right? And then he demonstrated the mindset of accepting whatever a professor says as an authoritative source, right? So no debate, no pushback. When somebody says like, okay, I heard your concerns, without understanding like, or without getting questions for his answer for his question, then right there, you have one mechanism that was completely broken. The other one, the parental one, right, where the alumni are supposed to be the one that are correcting the system, was overrun by foreign donations, right? So suddenly the universities did not have to self-correct anymore. They didn't feel a need because they were getting huge amount of sums from an alternative source. So they felt emboldened to not even risk it. So that's the second thing. We're seeing that and then the third one is that the parents, instead of going ahead and ruining the reputation of those, and I'm sure like people who send their kids to that school should have some sort of power. Instead of going ahead and doing a smearing campaign against Ivy League, when they hear their children, instead they go into the inner system, right, and complaining about professors who lie. And it's like there is a book like that, which I don't remember, which was about an old book. It's about a prestigious school that was known for teaching sciences, except the whole curriculum was based on fake science. And the school was extremely prestigious. And what I remember is that there was one student there that realized that the science breaks down, and she managed to get other students out of a trance or whatever. I don't remember how it finished. I just remember that was actually a book that was describing exactly what is happening right now. So you have prestige, and then parents who are afraid to break that prestige. So you have an authoritative thinking, foreign money, taking away the power of the Illuminati, and then parents who didn't do a smearing campaign. Those systems, regulation systems, failed. And he went to school and asked, like, did you study anything? Right? So the history was fake. I'm certain everything he learned was fake. Everything. I'm sure that you would have to, like, if somebody with knowledge would see what they're studying, I'm sure that there would be way more mistakes that he could not catch that would be there in the materials, okay? I'm certain there is way more than just this map that is so in your face, okay? So this is a whole system that failed. All right, Shauna, thank you for support. Part of the issue is that university is accepted not on IQ of merit, but on family history and extracurricular activities. There is nothing wrong with that per se. I don't think so. It's not always that people with high IQ would be able to think critically. Because people who don't have, like, I think there is correlation. There is, but not perfect. So I wouldn't like blame it completely on that, honestly. So then I went ahead and asked, okay, so if the course materials were fake, because honestly speaking, you would, like, I wouldn't need to see a proof that there was anything, right? Like, I asked him, did you learn anything that you thought was interesting, productive, like something that you actually learned? It couldn't answer, right? So when it comes to materials, I'm not sure there was something that, okay. And then on top of that, so there's the other layer. Okay, so did you know how to write? Did you learn how to present an argumentation, right? There is more than, like, there is the data, but there is also the metadata. How do you present? How do you research? How do you, like, that's what I was asking, right? Like, what did you learn? This is what a parent should be asking someone who goes to university that is that as prestigious like that. Okay, so if the data is falsified, what about the skills that are around it, right? Your ability to read, your ability to find sources, your ability to construct an argument, there are so much, right? And somebody who goes to an Ivy League should be able to point those skills out. I think so, at least. Or, like, I cannot think, like, I studied computer engineering in university, in the Technion, for 4 years. I learned everything. Like, ask me what I learned. Like, everything. Like, what did you learn? Like, how to deal with deadlines. Like, great skill. No offense. Great skill. But honestly speaking, like, I don't know. I expected more. I learned how to deal with stress that was basically destructive when I studied computer engineering. Okay? But I would not necessarily answer that as the, like, yeah, it's something you learn, 100%. That is something you learn. But that is a little bit, I don't know. So, so yeah, that's why I'm having this talk with you right now. This is what I'm thinking, honestly speaking. And it's not that I'm judging him. I'm sure, like, it doesn't matter who, like, he's the best. He is, like, makes it like, I'm certain he's the best. Okay, it's something like I see his tweets, the person, the way he makes commentary on Twitter, his thinking, smart, very very smart, the best you can get. Like I cannot like do what he's doing 100%. So Brandon is saying political correctness is cool is also disincentivized honest debate. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you for your support, Brandon. And Ina, what you're saying, it's multiple perspectives, no longer verifiable truth. My truth rather than the truth. Yeah. Politicized teachers with an agenda. Postmodernism. Yeah. So here's the thing, like if you go to a community college, like not that I want to be judgmental because I already had that conversation several years ago with where I had this, like here's the thing, I was naive. And when somebody I dated when I was younger, okay, when he was he was a student, and I asked him about his college experience. This is the So I was in my 20s as well, right? I was younger. I was early 20s myself, asking him. And then he talked about the college experience he had, but he would like he wasn't in an Ivy League. And I was like asking like, I don't know, what did you learn, or blah blah blah. And I got similar kind of answers. And I was like, okay, fine. And then in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe these are the kind of skill set you would expect if you go to any college. And then I remember I explicitly asked my ex-boyfriend, is it also true what you've been describing if you go to an Ivy League? And you know how the world is like, you ask one question a long time ago and you get the answer several years later down the line. Because I asked, look, like, so is the Ivy League that has all this prestigious, are they also like that? Is it also similar? And I was like, what about STEM fields then? Like, you can, like, STEM fields is like, yeah. Oh, Ina is saying something interesting here. And it's like, I feel like, okay, Ina, where is your comment? Ina is saying, Colombia is on the lower end of the Ivy League. Still, you know what? You don't even have to be an Ivy League, right? Israel is the size of one state, maybe, like small state in the United States. And like, I would be disappointed if I went to school and learned nothing. So Colombia is on the lower end of Ivy League. I was there and I left because of those professors and their cultish following. That was in the 90s. It's kind of scary, don't you think? It's kind of scary, honestly. So it's kind of it's also a sensitive topic because like you have to break a lot of holy cows when you talk about it. That's how we say it. right? So like Ivy League school was like holy cows, and now we need to shatter them. Those are idols, apparently. Those were idols, and that need to be shattered. And and when we shatter them, we also need to understand how deep is the damage. Like, how deep is the damage? So, and now that we are starting to understand how deep is the damage, what do we do about it? Because, like I said, this is what my channel is about. I'm not here to feed you with TikTok information. I hope to help people to construct things and think. And I appreciate it when people push back or challenge me or debate me. I really do. Because like we are on a trajectory right now. There is a trajectory towards a shittier world. This is where we're at. That we are globally marching toward a shittier version of ourselves. And that needs to be turned around. Turning that around is an effort, because we need to understand how we got started marching in that direction. And it's not just stopping, it's also reversing. It's also thinking like, it's not that simple. That's it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Just ain't that simple. And it's simple, and I think it's important for us to have this conversation and have it openly. And those are difficult topics, okay? What I'm saying right now, what I'm doing right now, this is a difficult topic. This is a difficult topic. It's not easy. It's not something that even every person can deal with, this kind of line of questioning or thinking. But those of us who understand that and see that, I really think that it would take more than one brain to understand how we fix it. That's what I think. So, let's see. Let me go through comments. Is this why that's why you are tired? No, I'm tired because it's late, actually. That's why I'm tired. And I'm kind of hungry, and there is a steak waiting for me to cook it and then to eat it. So I'm gonna go eat a steak and be happy. That's the plan. All right. Shut. I like entertainment and amusement. I agree. I like entertainment and amusement too. I wish I was like a more entertaining and amusing person. Thank you. First, have some sleep. Yeah, I'll go have some sleep. Shana here. I agree with Rebecca. We need to communicate and combine knowledge, because sharing experiences will help us get to the answers. I don't know when. And by the way, like, think about it. The Talmud are debates, right? Everything we ever achieved was done in a group debating and thinking, and several great minds thinking, right? It's like now there is this expectation that if you're smart, you're supposed to have all the answers. And I don't think I don't want to create that impression. And I think that doesn't make me less smart or educated or whatever, knowledgeable. I just know that if we want a breakthrough, we have to combine thinking. And I don't see us doing that enough. I don't feel like we're doing that enough. Everything, and also everything being a debate and not necessarily a conversation is also stifling. Because there is no breakthrough there. The breakthrough comes when you're more and more creative, trying to find solutions. And that's what I'm thinking. This is a good team. Yeah, you guys are my team. Definitely. We are all in it together. It's our world. It's our earth. We all share it. Okay, so this is why I keep saying like 100%. Okay, we all have a steak to go eat, I see. And that's it. Thank you all for being here.